Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital, specifically Trust TV's headquarters here in the nation's capital, Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and today is another day, an exciting day, actually, to have you join us on the show this morning.
Good morning, Nigerians. We are super excited to be here as we are just few days away to the new year.
Who is excited? It's less than 48 hours, really, to the new year, talking about 2022. What are your resolutions for the year? That's a tradition, and we cannot wait to have you share it with us via our social media handles. On YouTube, this is streaming live, so you can drop a comment and talk to us about your New Year resolutions. And then also, you can also drop a comment on our Facebook pages. I mean, this is 2021 has been a year to forgive, many will say.
Has it? Has it really?
Yeah, well, we've seen a better year actually, but it seems like it's better than 2020 at least. There was no lockdown in 2021. A lot of countries are adjusting to the realities of living with COVID-19. And here in Nigeria, I think we're not doing so badly.
We are trying to also live through the COVID-19 pandemic. But one other thing people have actually pointed out is our nonchalant attitude, to adhering to COVID protocols and all of that. And we should really do that, even if we want to live through, the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, if you've taken your first and second jab, endeavor to get boosted.
In fact, these days, if you've been following the numbers, you would know that it's really a scary situation. The numbers are quite on the high, I think more than we have ever seen. Even from the beginning of the pandemic itself, we are talking about 1,000+ cases, and we've had a couple of deaths, maybe because of the low death rate. Maybe it's why Nigerians are taking the protocols for granted. But hey, it's very important that you protect yourself and also protect your family by observing all the safety protocols. For now, even the vaccines are not as effective as the protocols. I can tell you that, because there's no guarantee that because you've taken the vaccine, you will not, contract COVID-19. But if you can be very strict, and by being strict, I mean very strict, observing all the social distancing if you can, because I know that others are not as careful as some of us are. So wearing of the face mask, using of the sanitizer, washing your hand regularly, I think that will go a long way.
Talking about the sanitizer, people actually toss that away to the side. I don't really get to see much of the sanitizers hanging around. And even the face mask, people are already tired of buying them. And then they say, okay, it's one of those, just like malaria.
And I cannot really believe it, because, if you flash back, when the COVID came initially, you remember the scare. If you go to stores, if you go to supermarkets looking for, sanitizers and face masks,
quite expensive.
You know how much you're going to pay for that, hugely, because of the initial scare and all of that. But we've phased that out, but that does not mean that the COVID is over. Well, we'll be looking at quite a lot, on the show today, and the Nigerian economy. No, not the Nigerian economy. We'll be looking at insecurity as it relates also to the issue of resource control in our dear country. And we'll be joined by experts to discuss these issues on the program today.
Yeah, but before that, let's take a look at the 30th of December in world history.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadaria Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
Well, there you have it. On a day like this back in 2006, the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, was killed. He is being charged and tried for crimes against humanity, specifically crimes against his own people. Right. He is known to be one of the most brutal, president in the Middle East, back then. And a lot happened. He began to exert open control of the government in 1979, and also became the president upon Bakar's resignation. He then became chairman of the Revolutionary Command Council and prime minister, among other positions. He used an extensive secret police establishment to suppress any internal opposition to his rule, and he made himself the object of an extensive personality cult among the Iraqi public. His goals as president were to supplant Egypt as leader of the Arab world and to achieve hegemony over the Persian Gulf. This is what Encyclopedia has to say about Saddam Hussein. So a whole lot of historical facts there about his person, and he is one. I know that a couple of them in the Middle East that were killed in a similar manner. We remember also the Libyan president Muammar Gaddafi, right, at that time. So that's what happened on a day like this back in 2006. Right.
This is quite a day, to remember. I remember vividly, after being sentenced to death by the Iraqi court, Saddam requested to be executed by a firing squad, rather than just hanging, claiming that it was not more military-like. It was a funny experience, but then this is something to remember in history.
Well, we know that by virtue of his rule, a lot of armed militia, came into being, as a result of conflicts in the country and within. He is known to have troubled Iran and also the neighboring Kuwait, as well. So, if you like, you may say, but that's history for you. And that's why it's very important what you do while you are alive, so that you are remembered for the good things.
Just like Desmond Tutu, we are remembering him for quite a remarkable, things that he has done in the course of history. And I will always remember this, in that interview that he said, he was asked, what would you like to be remembered for? And he said, I want to be remembered as somebody who touched the lives of people, as somebody who, sacrificed for humanity, who fought for humanity. These are the kind of things we want to hear, from people like this.
And he did achieve that before he died, actually, because if you look at his role, during the apartheid regime in South Africa, playing alongside the late President Nelson Mandela. He was very instrumental to that, to the non-violent movement and campaign to ensure that there is, the black people in South Africa, became relevant in their own country politically, and otherwise. Well, that's that for today in history. Now, let's take a look at the dailies on Daybreak, and we'll be joined by Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, to give us perspectives on that. That will be shortly after this breather. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now let's take a look at the stories making headlines on our dailies this morning. We're going to begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story there states how Villa Power Tussle thwarted Buhari's CPSO's promotion service extension. And the writer's documents show president approve extension. Due process not followed. That's according to the police commission. And other stories, NIN tokenization, days to commencement, Nigerians kept in the dark. And other stories state next, fear of job loss as COI offers severance package to staff. And you'll also find on the Daily Trust newspaper, NFF appoints Portuguese manager Jose Peseiro Super Eagles coach. And right on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper, bandits kill district head, 5 others in Zamfara. And on page 7, Kaduna residents await lifting of motorcycle ban. We will address forex supply to manufacturers. That's according to President Buhari. And on page 14, Elumelu Foundation opens entry for $5,000 grant for entrepreneurs. These are some of the lead stories on the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, so let's take a look at the Punch newspaper today. The lead story says ACF backs Obasanjo Pandev and INC Fume say constitution fraudulent. You would see also the writers there says amend constitution if you are not pleased with Obasanjo's argument. ACF tells Clark and Pandev. You'd also see constitution flawed, imposed by military. Ex-president mischievous, says Pan Niger Delta Forum. Now, other stories on the Punch newspaper. At the very top says FG raises 1.77 trillion naira Sukuk fund for Ibadan, Ilorin, Enugu, Port Harcourt, 95 other roads. And that's according to reports. That detail is found on page 21. Also, you'd find also the stories about at the very bottom there, below the pictorial, shows you, well, the pictures actually talks about, you know, crushing bottles of seized liquor and smuggled drugs in Karachi, Pakistan, I beg your pardon, Pakistan. And then below that, Ogun Assembly adjusts 182 agencies' votes, passes 350 billion naira budget. The next story there, order from above. Family of admission seeker killed by Oshun DSS operative demands corpse. And then I was once framed for armed robbery because of local government share beat. That's according to Wiki. You would find that on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. Patrol van crushes ASP to death in Ekiti. Command blames commercial fault. And then the next one, power drunk SFU policeman manhandle punchman sees phone and ID card. That's on page 4 and 5. No, so punchman here, I believe means a reporter from Punch newspaper. Equity cancels job exams. FIME orders return of form fees. That's on page 16 of the Punch newspaper this morning. That's that so far today.
Let's take a look at other stories on the Nation newspaper this morning. And the Nation is leading with a story, our worries over 2023 general elections by INEC. Worsening insecurity poses great threat. And on page 2, crossover night, states take COVID-19 measures. And on page 4 of the Nation newspaper, autonomy, why governors are yet to comply with executive order. And on page 8 and page 5, Oyetola signs 129.7 billion appropriation bill into law. Lagos Assembly passes 1.758 trillion budget 2022. And you'd also see other stories that say Buhari manufacturers will have better access to Forex. 16.7 billion for pensioners. NFF confirms Persero for Eagles. 2 Nigerians are global scientists, and also residents pay homage to Tutu. And lastly, on page 6, on the Nation newspaper, next supermarket inferno throws 4,000 into unemployment. So these are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's get perspectives on the stories that made the headlines today. We welcome our guest to the studio, Hamza Idris, Daily Trust General Editor. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
All right. Well, now let's begin with, the story in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story, talking about the tussle in the presidential villa, about the extension of the chief personal security officer of the president. Maybe just give us a highlight of that story.
Yes, it is an interesting time. If you look at the front pages of all the papers, it is your ingenuity that gives you the latitude to shine, to do what is expected of you. None of the papers have the same big headlines today, because it is the end of the year.
Yes.
We don't have the government offices are closed. People
There seems
have
to be
traveled
scarcity
and
of
all that,
stories.
yes. But journalists must be. Yeah, you must produce. Readers are unsatiable. You have to give them, but you have to give them the truth. You have to dig and then bring out interesting stories. Last week, there was a report from the Police Service Commission to the effect that Abdul Karim Doda, who's a nephew to the president, that his promotion to the rank of an AIG, that is Assistant Inspector General, as well as the extension of his service here, have all been cancelled because it was wrongly done. The story was everywhere, so we went deep to excavate the factors responsible for the twist of events. In retrospect, he's supposed to retire in 2020.
But one will be surprised that the president, according to documents,
Yes.
approved the extension, and the police commission says it didn't follow the due process. So
Most likely he's not the darling of the villa. And this is the import of the whole scenario, and that was what made it news, because ahead of his promotion, ahead of his extension, there was a letter to that effect, a recommendation by the former Inspector General of Police, Adamu. The Doda was serving as the personal chief security officer to the president, besides being his nephew. You get it? Not right. So, and they've been together with the president for a very long time. I think because he joined the police in 1985. So they've been together with the president for a very long time, on and off. And that was why he was even taken to the villa, because there was trust between him. And then leaders all over the world, they surround themselves with people who they like, who they trust, who they believe in their capacity to take care of the schedules given to them. And as a police officer, he was given that position beside the personal relationship. So based on recommendation of the former IG, Adamu, his tenure was extended to 2023. He's supposed to remain in the police until 2023. And 2023 will be the last year the president will serve out his tenure. But along the line, so many issues came up. Okay. Yes.
So is there really so much power tussle that is actually affecting, CPSOs being promoted?
Of course. Ordinarily, if there was a letter and then recommendation by an IG at the time to the Commander-in-Chief, who is also the chairman of the police council, and he endorsed the extension. I don't see any reason why the Police Service Commission will overnight said he was wrongfully promoted. But circumstances alter cases. Yes, number one, in 2020 he was first booted out of the presidency. Why? These are some of the questions we should ask. But based on our findings, it was because he allegedly, sided with the First Lady, because the other actor in the saga is Tunde, who is also very close to the president, who is like his personal assistant, and then the gatekeeper of sorts of the president. He had the First Lady had an issue with him. He traveled, I think that time his wife put to bed, so he traveled to Lagos at the height of the COVID-19. And when he returned, he was asked to isolate, but he did not. So this Dauda, who is the main actor of our story, allegedly sided with the First Lady, saying, look, you have to self-isolate. Is the issue you discussed earlier, that people are taking the isolation for granted.
Right.
Yes. And that was the beginning of the problem. Few weeks after, he was asked to.
We also remember that there was the story about gunshots in the villa as a result of that fracas.
So that was it. So he was removed from the villa and asked to go to Kaduna to lead the police college there as a commissioner. Now, recently the issue of promotion came up. His name was among those listed to be promoted to the position of Assistant Inspector General, but suddenly his was removed from the list. And that was what prompted him to write to the Police Service Commission that, look, I'm not under contract. It is an extension, meaning I'm fully part of the police family, so I supposed to be promoted because I am due to get promoted. So, and that was the Achilles heel, because they used that to now go back to the extension he got. And they said it was wrongfully done, therefore they cancel it, and at the same time said he should refund all the monies he collected between the time he's supposed to leave when he was asked to remain in the force at the discretion of the president.
Okay, so let's know. The president, as the chairman of the police council, that body, has the powers to, take the decision he did, isn't it?
Yes.
However, what's the procedure? And now that the president has not followed the process, what happens?
This is also contentious because the documents we have, first there was a recommendation from the then IG, Adamu. The present IG was the secretary at the time. Now, the then IG wrote to the president citing relevant provisions of the Constitution that gives the president that latitude, the power to extend the service year of any military or paramilitary official. And the president, based on that, probably he was misled, we don't know.
Yeah.
But we know that he had extended the service years of even IG Adamu.
Yes.
He also did that to the service chiefs. But other school of thought said those are at the helm of affairs of the establishments they headed at the time, and maybe it was the exigency of the moment that prompted the president to extend their tenure. But this one, you know, he was just a commissioner of police. Why?
And if we were to go by, you know, the recommendations of the former IG, does he have the, you know, the powers to do that, being that he's no longer in service? So should that recommendation?
No. He was in service
should
then.
the
former IG was there. You know, IG Adamu
okay, it was while he was in service
while he
that
was
he
in
made that
service,
recommendation.
yes, he made the recommendation, and the protocol, the procedure gave him that power to recommend. And you know, leaders at the top, they basically rely on their lieutenants in terms of advice. In fact, in some places, with your eyes closed as leader, you can sign documents because you believe, yes, you believe that the people working for you, they will have a critical look.
But in Nigeria, I say.
Yes,
Yeah,
the people working for you, they will have a critical look at every memo. They will look at the, you know, implications, and then they will also look at the relevant laws. You see, the system is dead. Yes, the system is dead. I had cause to discuss with the former permanent secretary. He told me that in those days, permanent secretaries, for instance, they cram the constitution. They cram the procedures in the civil service. So whenever a document, you know, comes to them, by mere looking at the first, second, third paragraph, they know
whether it's
the
in line or
implications. Yes,
not.
and they will quote it just the way you quote the Bible or the Quran. You understand? Yes, but now people are being promoted to high positions just to favor them, and maybe for political reasons and all that. And that is why, because it's a serious embarrassment.
And it's no longer safe to do that for a
It's not
president
to just sign
close
without
his
taking
eyes
a
and-
look.
Because it looks like this is one of the reasons why we've been having, or maybe sometimes we have this policy somersaults, or maybe some of the discrepancies that we see.
Yes, and this one is one of them. Because if the Police Service Commission will just come out and said what was done over a year ago is a nullity. It's an indictment on both the Police Service Commission, the police authorities, and then the presidency.
But shouldn't the president actually see this through? Shouldn't he do something about it?
You see, that was why I said he worked based on advice. And if your IG will write formally to you that this person who has been with you for a very long time, he is an expert, he's a reliable person, and it has to do with the security of the president. So it's about life and death. If you were the president, what will you do? Yes, he was advised, and in the recommendation, or while stamping his authority, he said, based on what you said, A, B, C, D, E, F, I hereby approve the extension of service to Dauda.
Okay, now let's look at, you know, other issues on the papers this morning, talking about insecurity. We're seeing here that bandits killed district head, 5 others in Zamfara. For a while, we actually didn't hear much about Zamfara, but since Christmas, since Yuletide, we've been hearing quite a number of attacks towards, you know, that area. What really is happening?
Most likely a spike, but the truth is that it is not that things are not happening. Things are not being reported. Most media organizations don't even see these killings and maiming as news. It is very sad. Of all the papers we have today, which of them led with the issue of
Maybe the society, Nigeria is becoming numb maybe to this, you know.
That is it. Yeah, but people are being killed, people are being maimed, and this happened late at night on Wednesday, and Tuesday. Very sad. The district head of Gada, he was brought out from his palace and then killed. including other people. The miscreants move from one house to the other, selecting their targets and then killing them. Before then, we reported yesterday how these bandits are raping women also in Zamfara. It was so now sitting very sad, and it's a crime against humanity. They are using other tactics like rape as another weapon of war. But we don't understand, and we are underreporting it. In fact, many papers did not even report it. Some editors called me yesterday saying, this report you have in the Daily Trust, is it true? But this has been happening. You know, women are being raped mercilessly, including toddlers. Yes, maybe for, I don't know, witchcraft, or just to demoralize the society, because by the time you humiliate women, that is the end of that society. So it's a serious problem. Killings are ongoing in Sokoto and Zamfara. Almost every day. There is no single day that these bandits will not kill people. There is no single day they will not carry out a serious onslaught on communities. And this calls for serious review of the so-called militarization of this theater of war. Because the claim in the official quarters is that there was massive deployment of troops. But locals believe that there was nothing like that.
All right. Well, now we are also having other stories here that are quite of interest. The president yesterday made some promise to manufacturers to make Forex more available. You know, he said there will be better access, you know, for manufacturers. Well, what do we expect, you know, going forward?
We are expecting action. We did a report, I think, at the middle of the year, the crisis around Forex. And I think it was one of the reasons the Forex being given to Bureau de Change operators was reversed. Do you know what was happening then? Every week, the Bureau de Change operators will get allocation of Forex. Let me say dollar, for instance, or pounds or euro. But what about manufacturers? They got it once in 3 months. So scandalous.
So sad.
Bureau de Change operators, you know, some of them just have, in fact, if you go to Zone 4, you see in one office like 4 or 5 companies.
Just a chair, yes.
Yes, with just your chair and all that, you fill the form, then you go to the CBN and then you get money. They were just $1 million getting profit left, right, and center. While manufacturers, you know, got that allocation once in 3 months. If you are
Manufacturers
lucky,
who are employers of labor.
who are employers of labor, and they are meant to, I forgot the figures, but we quoted them. It's so insignificant that considering the value of the Naira vis-a-vis that of the Forex, that like dollar, it is very difficult for you to go to China and even import with the allocation you have. And this is a country that is claiming to be working towards self-reliance in terms of manufacturing most of the basic things, the tools we need to oil the manufacturing sector. If you don't do that, the implications are many. Yes, because number one, you will keep importing, including toothpick, and then there will be no jobs for the people. But by the time you empower the manufacturing sector, you are empowering the people and you are strengthening your currency, because the strength of your currency is determined by, you know, your power to export, right? Yes, but when you import virtually everything, you are left with nothing, meaning you have to struggle to even get the forex to import some of these basic things. So I see it as a glad tidings from the president that they are going to review the way and manner the government gives forex to manufacturers, and we hope that this will start immediately.
Right, because many agree that we have a way of dishing out, policies and dishing out talks, and the implementation becomes a problem.
Yes.
Do you see this, actually coming to light?
That's why I resort to prayers. It is the end of the year, and in the next 48 hours will be in 2022. So we hope that it will be the New Year gift for the manufacturers. As I said, it will have a wider implication on the system. It will also strengthen yes, the currency, our naira. Because by the time maybe they get the money and then import machines, they import the basic raw materials needed to now take care of the various industries that we have. Ultimately, Nigeria stands to gain.
Right.
All right, well, that's also another, business-related issue here that we are seeing. We recall that on the 26th of December, there was an accident in the FCT. The burning, I would say the setting ablaze of Next Cash and Carry that was gutted by fire incident. There's a fear now, one of the stories that we are seeing on the Daily Trust, fear about job losses. The companies are offering severance package to staff. We expected this to happen, isn't it?
Yes. We humanize this story because we've been on it right from the day it happened. It was so sad. Before then, if you go around next in Jaibi area, it was like a mecca of sorts. You see thousands of people, earning livelihood there, including young children. The villagers behind the shopping mall, many of them rely on that. So yesterday we took this story to them. We spoke to them. Some said they've been there for over 10 years. Yes, and they don't even have anything to do. And then they expressed fear. Because while the owners said there will be job losses, including the FCT leadership saying there will be job losses because they will fast track the renovation of the place. The workers said the MD said they will give us severance. And you know what that means? In Nigerian parlance, we call it golden handshake, meaning if your employers are about asking you to leave, they now give you a certain package and say, okay, take this, thank you, your services are no longer needed. It's very devastating. So the people we interviewed expressed this fear, and they are in thousands, direct and indirect workers there. And you see, apart from them who get paid by the conglomerate, there are others who supply goods to. They have shelves in the main hall there where they display their goods, and then after a while they go and then collect their money. So farmers, married women who produce some of these local edibles at home like kuli, and all that. They have all lost out. So
is there anything, or is there anything that the government can do to salvage the situation, maybe in terms of payment of compensation, to these people?
Well, I think it is the insurance company that should handle that. And we also explored that in our story. There is an insurance company that says it is looking into the whole thing. And this brings about the need for people to understand the issues around insurance. Right. I remember that the very day it happened, while we were reviewing our production of the previous day, I brought the matter to the table. I said, I think we should do a story, because up till now, culture and religion has made people, extremely suspicious to the word insurance. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Some clerics, if you tell them insurance, they will say it's haram. Mm-hmm. It's not allowed. I don't know. But I said we should maybe conduct an interview with experts. More so, we have many banks who have this window of Islamic banking. Yes, to talk about insurance in Islam and even in Christianity. Because these are two major religions, and I strongly believe that up till now there are people who are averse to subjecting their estates, subjecting their wealth to insurance because of the rainy day. Simply they will say that who told you that if calamity will befall you, anybody will stop it and all that.
Yeah, but also there's also a whole lot of controversy around insurance in Nigeria, issues of trust, issues of fraud in the sector and all of that. But that's a discussion for another day, But are we, from what we know so far, there are terms and conditions. So whether or not the insurance will suffice for a place like Next, that have all kinds of categories of merchants who are associated there.
That is our prayer, because they lost billions there. It's one of the biggest shopping malls in the federal capital, and when you have something like this, it is not about propriety or impropriety of extending helping hand. It is about the people that you will support. So the FCT minister said they will look at the situation and see how they will get in to support. We hope that they should support that place so that it will come back, because it's about people. And when you say 4,000 people or 3,000 people,
that's a lot.
You are talking about 12,000, because in Nigeria, there is nobody who is working that will tell you that it is just about himself. Whether he is married or not, he has dependents.
Right.
Whether immediate dependents who live with him all the time or in his village. So it's about job losses and serious trouble for thousands of people.
Right. There are quite, a number of stories, quite an interesting number of stories on the Daily Trust newspaper. I'm really curious about this NIN tokenization. Days to commencement, Nigerians kept in the dark. Many actually do not know the whole idea behind the NIN tokenization. Could you walk us through that?
You see, you remember the trouble that we all passed through when they gave a deadline for people to get NIN. Up to now, there are people who have not gotten the number, right?
Yes.
Now, NCC and by extension the Ministry of Communication, they said they will now fine-tune the processes of getting the NIN and then protecting it. And that is why we said, and the effective date is 1st January, meaning 48 hours. But up to now, as you rightly ask, many Nigerians are just watching, okay, what exactly? Because if you say token, the token, the token that we used to have those days when you have an account and then you want to do e-transaction, they will give you, you put it in your key holder.
Yes.
Now you press it, then it brings out a certain number. I don't know whether that is the one in their hand, but yes. But in a nutshell, what they are saying is that it's like the NIN is not well protected. For instance, if you go to transact a certain business. Now the person, on the desk, he will ask you your NIN, right? You write it, and if you write and then leave, he has the power at his disposal to abuse that number. Yes, that you gave him. So NCC now said they want to avoid that, meaning even if you give your number anywhere, your NIN, it stops at that. Whenever somebody wants to now use that NIN to do something funny or even something legal, he will not be able to do it without getting automatically generated token.
But shouldn't we have prepared for that, before?
Yes, it is evolving. It's just like the BIVAS that we have for INEC, from the other machine they use. And technology, as I said, is evolving almost every day all over the world. What you use and what you see as perfect 2 weeks ago, you realize that it's an outdated app maybe 3 months after. Meaning you have to be in the race also against time. Yes, but I think our problem here is the manner we approach some of these things. We subject the citizens to untold hardship. Yes, probably by the time they start this, you see people queuing, in banks or in National Identity Management Office, or they will tell you to go to the online to do it, and you will be having problem with the internet and all that. Ordinarily, it should be a seamless thing, process. And it should be a welcome development, because protection of identity is very important. Yes.
All right, well, let's take a look at another interesting story. I see that we have quite some business stories that look very cheering. The one about the airlines, this time around on the Punch newspaper, they said that the airline companies and others rake in 146 billion naira in 9 months as aviation industry rebounds. We know that one of the worst hit in 2020 when it comes to revenue was the aviation sector, back then. And now in 2021, it appears that we are recovering from that. But again, we have these recent issues about cancellation of flights, and travel restrictions, even though they are being lifted gradually and all of that. Are we likely to go back to status quo?
Not likely, because there are two things here. Number one, the Omicron necessitated fresh lockdowns of sorts across the world, and which brought about restriction of flights. Many countries were put on red list and all that. This was what brought about cancellation of flights, not failure or lack of capacity on the side of the airlines to deliver. It was the restrictions by countries, UK, Canada, and all that. They put serious restrictions on many countries, including Nigeria. There was serious altercation between Nigeria and United Arab Emirates. We just resolved it. So this is one. But on the flip side, you see millions of people have migrated from traveling by road to traveling by air. And Nigeria is a good example. You see some people going to Kaduna struggling to go by air. Yes. How many kilometers? Less than 100. So before even the aircraft settles, it will start landing. Yes. So in Nigeria, I'm domesticating the analysis now. Most people prefer to travel by air because it's the safest now. You can't travel 100 kilometers, with your mind settled. Almost everybody moves with their heart in their mind. because of the level of insecurity. So somebody prefers to even use his last money to pay for ticket to get to his destination and then stay like that without a penny. Yes, instead of maybe going by road. Yes, and that is why you see the tickets, almost quadrupled the prices. I know that we did a report that traveling from Lagos to Enugu, cost as much as 90,000, which was 25,000 before. There are people who paid up to 80,000 from Abuja to Kano. The same from Abuja to Yola, from Abuja to Maiduguri.
Yes.
Yeah, which we used to pay maybe 25,000, 30,000 because of the competition.
Yes.
Oh, but should we, because of competition, should we really see, the hike, in airfares?
Market forces.
Yes, demand and supply.
Yes, demand and supply. It is determined by that. And you see, the airlines, they have this template, very funny template. When I read it, because our aviation correspondent, Abdul Latif in Lagos, he did an analysis. I was out when I read it. Yes, we reported it about 2 weeks ago. Very interesting. The metrics, that determines prices of tickets. That, okay, maybe they will say the first 10 to buy will get it at 25,000. Then
And then subsequently.
it will be 30. Then it will be 40.
My goodness.
As the days goes closer.
So it is determined by competition, because there was outcry that the airliners were shortchanging the people, and that was what prompted him to do that report. I know it was an interesting report. It was, strictly market forces. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program today. We'll have to end the review at this point. We appreciate and look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. All right, we've been speaking with Hamza Idris, and he is the General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, reviewing the stories with us on our newspapers this morning. We'll now take a breather, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussions. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
outbreaks and disasters are caused by several factors, either natural or human activities. The incessant fire outbreaks in the country has led to destruction of lives and properties. Incidences such as the infernos that ravaged Kubwa village and Nyanya markets, with the most recent outbreak at the next cash and carry supermarket in the FCT. Allegations from the affected staff say emergency response teams were late to the scene.
I was not happy what happened this morning because it was sad. How can we be calling the federal government, as in the fire service? They have been calling them since 8 o'clock, 8:30, they have been calling them. Nobody is responding. And do you know the worst part of it is that this is where thousands of youth are fed on. It sounds somehow.
In the morning around 8, the fire started at that Christmas tree was burning. I removed my clothes to hold the fire. There was no fire extinguisher, I was not working. The pipe inside, there was no water inside. Me and 15 security, we can't off small lights. We can't fire extinguisher. They came almost 2 hours before the fire don't go up.
Director General of Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, Abbas Idris, while reacting to these allegations, said the agency was on ground in collaboration with other emergency units.
Our response time, if you can call us from anywhere, is 5 minutes. 5 minutes. From anywhere in the city is 5 minutes. The problem we are having is that if you look at the next cash and carry fire incident, it wasn't at the instant of the fire that they called the fire service. They tried, you could see there was a video going around. You could see how they made attempt to extinguish the fire until when they were overwhelmed. It was the smoke from outside, the outsider, not the people from the cash and carry that called for response. So, and I was to be the first person that got there and ensured that I activated the police, the civil defense, and other security agencies to cordon up the area before I now start calling the fire appliances to come. And within a short time, the fire appliances came as if they were stationed in one place and asked them to move. So it was swift. The response was swift compared to most times people don't call the fire or security, the emergency number on time. And we keep saying 112, toll-free emergency number.
The director also called for a review of the Fire Service Act of 1963 to put it in line with current realities.
The problem we are having is that there is no specific law for state fire services. They are both using the Federal Fire Service Act, and that is where we have the lacuna. And the lacuna is that the operational structure of the state fire service is not defined. So in that case, they have a lot of handicaps in terms of enforcement. And where you are talking about public safety, there must be adequate protection, adequate laws guiding the public that can be able to, give a lot of protection and enforcement of relevant laws that will guide against loss of lives and property. So the need to have a review of the entire Federal Fire Service Law, which was enacted in 1963. It doesn't go with the current reality.
An average of at least 5 fires are recorded daily in the FCT. Nafisa Abdel Al, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Well, there you have it, that video from the incident that happened, the fire that got at Next Cash and Carry on the 26th of December this year, a day regarded as Boxing Day, even though it's Boxes Day, that's what it's meant to be. Now, Nigeria is faced with an unprecedented wave of different but overlapping security crises. From kidnapping to extremist insurgents, you would find also almost every corner of the country has been hit by violence and crime. Now, the scale of insecurity threatens the very fabric of the Nigerian society. With every attack, human lives are lost or permanently damaged, and faith in democracy and the country is diminishing. Some have linked the recent surge of insecurity to the staggering poverty across the country, while youth unemployment currently stands at 32.5%, and the country is in the middle of one of the worst economic downturns in 27 years. When President Muhammadu Buhari was elected in 2015, he promised to protect citizens from terrorists and criminals. But there are less than 2 years left of his final term in office, and the country is more unstable than it's been in decades. Nigeria's 5 biggest security threats. 1, Boko Haram. You have also clashes between herders and farmers, banditry and kidnapping, separatist insurgency, and also you'd have, militias in the south region, armed militias, talking about oil bunkery, and thieves and all of that. Well, these are the dimensions that we'll be looking at today on the program. And now we have in the studio to discuss this security consultant, Stephen Okore. He'll be giving us perspectives on this. Thank you for joining us this morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me once again.
All right. Now, there are 2 things really that we are looking at, today on the program. On the one hand, we have insecurity, and on the other hand, we have conversations about resource control that keeps, resurfacing every now and then. Recently, we are hearing the war of words between the former president Olusegun Obasanjo and an elder statesman in the South region, Edwin Clark. Let's get your perspectives on the background to this, looking at these challenges. What are the links between these two?
Yeah, you see, I want to start by saying that the oil that we have in the South region belongs to Nigeria as a state. It doesn't belong to certain ethnic or region, because the land that this oil is found belongs to the Nigerian state. So the benefits that are supposed to come from the oil that we have, it's supposed to be an all-encompassing benefits where all other regions should benefit from. But when you see certain people laying claim to the oil as if it's a personal thing, though we are aware that there are some implications, disadvantage implications that comes out of the production of the oil that affects their environment, their waters, the rivers and all that. Those of them that are into fishing no longer go into fishing because of the oil spill and some other things that comes out of it. But when the likes of the elder statesman begin to say certain things for me that are not palatable, that for me brings some kind of issues within the state, I don't find it comfortable, So I want to align myself with former President Obasanjo's position where he said that the oil belongs to Nigeria.
All right, now we'll revisit that, much later on the program, maybe before we round up. But we have a lot of number of insecurity issues, that we're dealing with. Like I earlier mentioned, Boko Haram and conflict between herders and farmers and all of that. Looking at the year 2021, from the data that we are seeing, there was a report yesterday that was released. More than 9,000 people were killed in the year 2021 alone. According to the UNICEF, about more than 25 schools have been attacked, and we've seen massive abductions from these schools. Students in hundreds, abducted. A total number of about over 1,400, between January to, November. So, how have we done, in the year as regards, confronting these challenges that are, I won't say evolving because they are here already with us. Really. Yes. So how are we, responding to them?
I will say that looking at the statistics that we have read out, we're not doing very well, because a situation where these things keep reoccurring, rather than seeing that they are not happening anymore or are reduced to a drastic level where the occurrence are not too frequent. If it was in that, if we were seeing it like that, you would say, okay, we are making a result, seeing a result, or looking at the efforts we are putting on board. But rather than saying that, it is the opposite. Banditry activities or attacks are still ongoing, right as we speak. Kidnapping. Are you aware that between this period, that how much kidnappers have collected from citizens of these countries as ransom? In dollars, to the tune of about $18 million. When you begin to convert that amount to naira, just imagine how much it will be. You will see a kidnapper saying that he made close to 200 million in 6 months within this 2021. You know, so a lot is happening, and I think that though I will say that the military and the police are trying, but their effort, is it good enough? I want to see that this year, at the end of this year, is the period that where they should go and sit down and appraise their activities, their operational activities that that were done or carried out within this period of the last 1 year, to see where they have failed and where they have succeeded. Where they have succeeded, they need to see how to improve more on that. Where they have failed, they need to see how to what to do and how to go about it, to see how, where they don't fail anymore. Okay. You know.
Now, we're just a few days away, you know, to the new year. And with all of these challenges we've seen through 2021, yes. Do you forecast, you know, something better, like a form of change? Do you see the atmosphere being brighter in 2022?
We get these comments from the heads of security agencies that we have, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of the Air Staff. They were in Maiduguri some couple of days ago, and they went to visit the troops over there. And you see these comments coming from them, and you see that the comments are quite encouraging. You know, it gives hope to the troops that are on ground there, and even hope to citizens of the country that, yes, they are trying to do something better than what they have done this year, you know. But I take you to crime triangle in this discussion. Crime triangle identifies 3 factors that create a criminal offense. 1 is the desire of a criminal to commit a crime. 2 is the target of the criminal's desire. Then 3 is the opportunity for the crime to be committed. So by the time the government now comes to look at it, how do we tackle the desire of this potential or intended criminal, or the ones that are into it already, and their target and the opportunity, because they have an enabling opportunity to strike. That is why they keep striking. So by the time the government, when I mean the government now, the agencies that are in charge, the National Orientation Agency, they have a role to play in terms of the desire of potential criminals or people that are even there. They can sensitize them in the language that they understand. By doing that, they can have a change of mind from either going into crime or withdrawing from crime. Tell them the implications, you know, the penalties involved. They might lose their life. You might lose your life in what you are doing. You can spend the rest of your life in jail. Let them know. Some of them are even ignorant of what they are doing.
Well, are we sure that that's the case? Because it looks like they know that these are crimes against humanity, and if caught, you know, especially when armed, yes, it's likely to be dead, you know, immediately.
Haven't we seen?
So even with the orders that we've seen, you know, that we've gotten from the president, that look, anyone caught, you know, with AK-47 rifle, yes, or any arm should be shot aside. Yes. I mean, we've had such orders.
Yes.
So we've always had this, you know, confidence-building statements, you know, by, you know, security heads and all of that. But is that all that we need?
It's a factor that we can bring about. You see, the situation we are in, we'll keep trying our best to see. We have seen situations where people repented Boko Haram. What did you think transpired there?
Well, that remains contentious, actually.
It is, actually, but we have seen cases where some of them genuinely repented. But it's left for us as citizens to be convinced that they are truly repented, you know. So what I'm saying is that by the time the government put their ass together and see how to, not to give these criminals the opportunity to be able to strike, you know, the criminal has a desire, he has a target. Don't forget that they are surveying, they are monitoring as well. By the time they look at their target and they strike, these rewards that they get as ransom is a target for them. By the time you try to see how to hit them by not giving them the opportunity, at least things will change. So that's my conviction about that.
Okay. All right. Now, in terms of, treating these issues from their roots, that's one thing that a lot of people are saying, that it doesn't look like we've paid enough attention to that regard. We've been more of the kinetic, let's crush them, let's fight them, but we do not seem to be paying attention to the factors that are fueling this, insecurity that we know, issues of injustice in the country. We were talking about unemployment, about more than 30% in Nigeria, and we are seeing that certain economic indices are not in our favor. And so these terrorists, they find breathing grounds, for recruitment and all of that. How do we, address the issues at the roots of it?
First of all, I want to look at the root by addressing the roots of these challenges we are talking about from the family background. First of all, from the family. Because most of these perpetrators of this crime come from one family or the other. So parenting comes into what we're talking about. There are parents that don't give their children the best of, the best of upbringing. Some parents, when they hear issues about their children that are not comfortable, that people come to report to them or so, they take it for granted. And once you do that, the child begins to build on that. Because as parents, we need to pay attention to our words, our children, So one of the root causes that we are supposed to look at it from the family, before we begin to go into other indices like poverty, unemployment, drugs.
But they are all linked, isn't it? If you talk about poverty, it seems to have a direct link with upbringing of children. So you find a family that is not able to fend for, the children in that home. And then the children, grow up and they resort to going to the streets to fend for themselves, and they become uncontrollable. But they do not take instructions from the parents because they feel that they are doing everything all by themselves. That practice is very, very prevalent here in the northern region. So how do we curb that?
How to curb that is very easy and simple. Why won't you now bear children that you'll be able to take care of? If your capacity is within 2 or 3 children, why won't you not stop at that? You don't have the wherewithal to take care of children and you have up to 14, 15.
That will take a long time to change that, thinking, because it's more of a cultural and religious
That is why we said I am talking here that they need to know. They need to know the implications of bearing a number of children that you cannot take care of.
So I say it's more of a parental problem than a societal problem.
It starts from there. Then it builds. It builds and becomes a societal problem. So by the time you have this number of children that you can't take care of them, of course, the way he said, they begin to look for how to fend for themselves. And in going to fend for themselves, they go into different means of trying to see how to fend for themselves. Some could be criminal, some could be genuine means of fending for themselves. Because, of course, we have some of them are genuinely taking care of their needs and wants, and they are doing it in a genuine way. Those of them that cannot even bear go into criminal ways of fending for themselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. We'll have to end it, because of the time.
It's all right.
Today. We've been speaking with security consultant Stephen Okorie, and he gives us perspectives on the rising security challenges in the country. We look forward to having you again on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a short breather now, and then when we come back, we will be taking a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman Federal Inland Revenue Service Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadaria Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
All right, welcome to the program. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has denied a claim by the leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, Edwin Clark, that he hates the people of Niger Delta and the region. Clark, in an open letter to Obasanjo, had claimed that the former president still has disdain and insincerity for the people of Niger Delta region. Clark said Obasanjo's comments that the oil found in the Niger Delta does not belong to the people of the region represents his continuous hate against the Niger Delta. Now, replying to the PANDEF leader in a letter dated September 28, Obasanjo said Clark was wrong for accusing him of having disdain for the people of the Niger Delta. The former Nigerian leader added that the mineral resources found in any particular state or territory did not belong to the area of location, but to Nigeria. Now, public affairs analyst Jide Ojo joins us in the studio to discuss, this saga happening. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Zainab. Good morning, Ayuba. Compliment of the season.
Thank you.
Happy New Year in advance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we also anticipate joining us from Port Harcourt via VMix, the PANDEF National Publicity Secretary, Ken Robinson, and we will be connecting with him as soon as we get him online. Now, this conversation about resource control is a conversation that I think that is as old as Nigeria itself.
Sure.
Each time, it keeps resurfacing and all of that. And some of the narratives is, sometimes when you think about it, brings about more division in the country than uniting the country. Let's get your response, to this.
Ayuba, you are very much on point when you said some of these narratives are very divisive than uniting. All these centrifugal and centripetal forces, we ought to have laid it to rest if we actually believe in Nigeria. The claim, first and foremost, I disapprove of what elder statesman Edwin Clark said about Obasanjo's hatred for Niger Delta. Obasanjo did not hate Niger Delta. Obasanjo does not have any preference in Nigeria beyond uniting the country. If you follow Obasanjo's antecedents, he is a man with independent thoughts. At the peak of crisis in Plateau State, he lambasted a cleric, a Christian cleric, openly. He believes in one Nigeria. Now, when you stretch the argument to issue of resource control, there is an age-long agitation, like you said in your background. Every state wants to be in control of the resources in their environment. But the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has put every solid and natural resource under the federal, under the exclusive legislative list. And that's where you'll find it in the Constitution. It then means that all your natural resources belongs to the federal government. You can fault the argument on the basis of 1976 Land Use Act that vested every land in the state. If the land belongs to me, and you said the resources in that land belongs to federal government or someone else, I think it doesn't stand logic. But until that law is changed, in which case every state is able to control resources on its land under control, then Obasanjo is right to say.
The Pan-Niger Delta Forum has actually reacted to that, saying, like it states here on the Punch newspaper, that the constitution is flawed and imposed by military ex-president mischievous. That's
it does not matter. We are all agitating for a process-led autochthonous constitution. I'm part of that struggle, believing that 1999 constitution is flawed. And we need not just tinkering or amending the constitution, but we should give ourselves a process-led and autochthonous, people-oriented constitution. Just like Kenya did, sometimes in 2010 or thereabout. But if that process comes up, and we are able to conclude that we are still guided by the current constitution. So I'm only responding that in the context of what Obasanjo just said, he is right to say that the oil in Niger Delta, just like the gold in Zamfara, or the 34 solid mineral in Nasarawa, they call Nasarawa what is the motto of Nasarawa now? Solid miners, I think that's the acronym. If you go to the Ministry of which one is it? Is it Ministry of Solid Mineral we have or whatever? The one former governor of Ekiti State was in charge of as a minister. You find out that There are documents to show that Zamfara has gold, has lead, has several. Nasarawa has over 30. But none of the governors can wake up one morning and say that they want to continue. They want to explore that mineral to improve their IGR.
Okay.
They have to follow due process. And that is what is also happening with Niger Delta. The argument is that none of our solid minerals or natural resource belongs to, it is antithetical to equity, justice, and fairness. If you say the land belongs to me, and in the course of building on that land, I find solid mineral, and you say, hold it, this mineral resources or this natural resource we have found belongs to Abuja or federal government.
Okay. All right. Now, at the risk of throwing away the baby with the bathwater, shouldn't we maybe be considering some of the merits of these arguments, as regards the federalism that we practice, that many, have pointed, holes in, about, well, some are not comfortable with the 13% derivation, from land. So they are saying that, look, there should be some kind of autonomy for states to have some control over resources within their domain. Maybe that will help in, fighting some of the economic issues that we have, unemployment, across the regions, the redundancy in some of these subnationals, and then perhaps that will begin to help, have more Nigerians, being in a productive situation and help to curb the issues of insecurity and all that.
Ayuba, you are bringing us to the age-long agitation for restructuring. That's part of what restructuring is all about. We have political restructuring, we have economic restructuring, we have social restructuring. Now, part of the agitation on economic restructuring is to have fiscal federalism where states will control the resources in their enclave and pay royalty, tax, and duties to the federal government. That was operational between the time we got independence up to 1960. I think 1963, before we start creating the states. As you know, after 1963 Constitution, it was 1979. But by 1976, we have this Land Use Act that now say all lands belong to federal government. I mean, to states, not that the state government, the state governors own the land in trust for the people of that state. As it is, Abuja, the presidential villa is, I read somewhere that maybe the FCTA is demanding for rent, or that they are paying rent to FCTA, because the federal government has not even an inch of land. But the attempt since 1976-77 to reform the Land Use Act has not been successful. And until when you revise this, and maybe you now put land at the behest of land and its natural resources at the behest of the state, or you have land revert to the federal government who do the needful. But the truth about our federalism is there is a lot of mistrust, distrust, and misgivings. We do not trust one another. The Hausas do not trust the Igbos. Igbos do not trust Yorubas. You hear what our elders say. It's our own generation that we can flow very well. At the level of those who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, if you hear what they say about Nigeria, you'll be shocked. But because you and I have intermingled with schools across, that's why they call it unity schools. When they establish those unity schools, so Ayuba can go to Ibadan to school, Zainab can go to Port Harcourt, and you start having friends, you start having better worldview. And that's what NYSC is also all about, to unite us. But our leaders are not united in their thoughts. When you hear what Obasanjo, Awolowo said about Nigeria being a geographical expression, what Nnamdi Azikiwe said about Nigeria and the rest, you find out that our leaders of thought in the 60s, in the 50s, in the immediate post-independent era do not believe in one Nigeria. And despite that, we have had that albatross upon us up until this moment. And which is why APC, when it set up Malam El-Rufai committee way back in 2016, 2017, the committee sat for 6 months. In fact, if you Google the report, which I have, print copy of that report, part of what El-Rufai committee proposed for APC was devolution of power and including of fiscal federalism. But the recommendation was not accepted. In fact, it was never acted upon. Since 2017, that report was submitted by El-Rufai committee to the APC national leadership under Odige Oyegun before Oshiomhole came on board, and now we have Mai Mala Buni. So the issue is that we are shying away, postponing the evil days. We need to confront this thing. Right. How do we want to deal with this federation? How do we want to run this federation? The same thing, the same argument is what's afflicting the local government. Today, everybody will say local government is not recognized by constitution. Power sharing in the federalism is between the federal and state, and the local government are constituents of the state. But then the constitution listed all the 768 local government and the 6 area councils as, being recognized, provided for the functions of those local government. Even in section 7 says no local government should be run undemocratically. So what else do you need to recognize local government at a third tier of government? But up to today, we are still agitating for local government reform.
We have very short time, but before we go, I really want to ask, is oil the only resource we have in Nigeria that we are having so much power tussle over? Very
good question. It is not. But we have largely underdeveloped other solid minerals. I mean, other resources, natural resources, because I won't say oil is a solid mineral. It's not a solid mineral. And that's why you have a whole ministry dedicated to petroleum resources, oil and gas. But oil and gas is not the only thing we have in Nigeria. We also have other resources that can even be more profitable to us. Look at iron ore. Look at limestone, look at gold, look at lead, diamond. Every of these resources have been found in commercial quantities. Unfortunately, this whole effort at diversifying the economy has not yielded. Look at Ajaokuta. Shouldn't we have resolved the Ajaokuta conundrum by now? That Ajaokuta alone can help industrialize Nigeria. Because once you have that iron ore fully explode, all the steel that you are importing from Russia, from Europe, you will stop to import those steels and iron, and you can't build house, you can't build any structure without iron. And that is why the cost of building any structure now is very astronomical, because most of these things that we could have been producing with Ajaokuta steel rolling, Ajaokuta complex are not. So we need to look critically at the legal framework, but we need first to do away with this mistrust among the different ethnic groups where we see ourselves.
So do you think that this argument about restructuring and Nigeria's federalism will put to rest arguments like this?
If it is done sincerely, if it is done with sincerity of purpose, not the kind of Goodluck Jonathan in 2014, on the eve of his departure, organized national conference. They came up with over 600 recommendations. This association came and did away with it and said it was politically motivated. Now, if you have genuine restructuring, and I don't see this administration doing that, because now we are moving into an election year, and in an election year a lot of compromises are struck, and you don't want to rock the boat when you are on your way out. So it is going to be inherited by the incoming administration in 2023. But until we slay that monster, and deal once and for all with this whole agitation about resource control, fiscal federalism, political structure of Nigeria. Do we need 360 members in House of Reps? Do we need 109 senators? Do we need between 24 and 40 members of state houses of assembly? Should we reconsider going back to a parliamentary system or stick with our presidential system of government? How do we, the issue of local government, is with all the agitations in the last 3 years since Obasanjo and Buhari signed the autonomy for states and state assembly and judiciary. That bill was signed in June of 2018. You can see the agitation is still on. Was it last week or this week? Or your state is just saying, I am now giving you autonomy. How many years after? 3 years after. A presidential assent, a constitutional matter has been dealt with.
Including an executive order.
So this is why I said political will is what we need. Once the political will is there and all our leaders are agreed, have a consensus on which way to go, we will resolve this national question and there will be peace and security.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. We look forward to having you on the program.
Happy New Year in advance. See you in the New Year.
Yes. All right, there you have it. We will be going on a short break again now, and we've been discussing with Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst, here with us in the studio on Nigeria's conversation about resource control. Edwin Clark, Obasanjo, and all of that. We'll resume after this short break to continue our discussions. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Right, we are still talking, security in the country, and we have our defense correspondent here, Idowu Isamotu, to give us, a sort of a highlight through, the whole move to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, viewers.
You're welcome. All right, so quite a lot, really, in terms of insecurity. There's been recent hike, in the cases of abductions, and I've seen school children, abducted in hundreds in the year 2021. The death rate as a result of attacks by terrorists, and bandits and all of that is also on the rise in thousands. What's your assessment of the performance of the military in this year?
Okay, let me start like this. By this time last year, I mean in 2020, we were all hopeful. In fact, virtually all Nigerians were very hopeful that things were going to change in 2021. That was, that preceded when the President Muhammadu Buhari hinted all Nigerians that he will relieve all the service chiefs by 2021. We are all aware that all the service chiefs, the previous service chiefs, General Tukur Buratai, the Chief of Army Staff, and his colleagues, Oloni Shakin and others, they were relieved in January this year. So immediately they were relieved, they actually brought in new hands. And, hope from Nigerians was so raised that, they thought that things will get better. I wouldn't say things are not better, and I wouldn't say things are better. When the new service chiefs took the mantle of leadership in the defense place. In that same January, we saw some things that Nigerians were trying to look at, that, oh, things will change, And there was, when we got to May, another sad incident actually happened to Nigerians, which we are all aware of. The former Chief of Army Staff actually died in plane crash, On and on and on like that. There are a lot of things that have happened in this 2021 if we are trying to assess them. The school abductions, the banditry, the criminalities and everything are still on, but to be fair to the military and all other security agents, they are actually doing their best. But like the president said, that their best is not enough. Okay. Having said that, what are the things they need to do if we are to look at what had happened in this particular year? Like Mr. Yuba just said now, that the cases of abductions, the banditry and everything were on the rise. So what are the things they can do? Honestly, as somebody who had traversed the length and breadth of security beats, I will say that the top echelons in the military or in other security agencies should please just support the young ones who are basically on the field. I'm not saying, if you look at it, for instance now, in different theaters of operations, probably in Maiduguri, we have different operations. The military has different Operation Adinkai, Operation
Python
Delta
Dance.
Save, Operation Wild Stroke, different operations. All these operations were actually brought up in order to tackle the raging security in the country. But these operations, there were personnel who are taken to those places in order to carry out the operations. So while they were carrying out their operations, there are some things they need. Apart from moral support, there are some logistics they need in order to perform their functions as expected. So what are the things they need from their superior? Logistics. Those who are on the field, sincerely speaking, they need logistics.
Okay, so have we seen any change in, strategy, in recent times, especially with the, taking of delivery of the Super Tucanos that we've been, hearing about 12 of them, many Nigerians are hopeful that maybe this will, change the tide as far as the fight against insecurity is concerned. So what are the gains, that we can actually point to say, okay, as a result of these changes that we've seen, you know, even in the leadership hierarchy and all of that, these are some of the gains that we can, you know, point to that have been recorded.
Well, the little change, personally, that I have observed in the military is that, unlike before, the security agents are working hand in hand. Because before, their operations were being carried out adversely. But as of now, they are carrying out their operations, they are working hand in hand. You will notice that there was a time, something like around 2020, that the military airstrike, they said, it was reported that the military airstrike actually killed some troops. You know,
yes.
It caused a lot of disagreement between the Air Force and the Army. Do you understand? So
apart from the ones on civilians as well.
Exactly. So as of now, the land troops and the air troops have actually stepped up their games in synergizing. I mean, they are working hand in hand. That is, for now, that is one of the gains that I can see. As far as Super Tucano is concerned, you know, the effort of the federal government in bringing these criminals to their knees is being, to me, is being too much publicized than the actions.
Okay.
I don't know whether you are getting what I'm talking about. Yes. What I'm trying to say is that the essence of bringing Super Tucano has not actually been felt by some Nigerians. And we all know why it has not been felt. You know, you can't just use the particular equipment. There are some things you need to use it for. You know, it's not everything we can diverge on here, but there are some things you need to do. That's why you saw that many people are trying to agitate that bandits should be declared terrorists. You know, if the bandits are declared terrorists, the military will go in full force to tackle by using this equipment. But as it is now, that the bandits or any other criminals have not been declared terrorists, it will be hard for our troop, for our air troop.
They actually been declared.
The court, if you are following very well, it was only court that did that.
Who else has the power to do that?
No, on a serious note, let's be sincere with that. It's actually the federal government that should have done that. As it is now, we should get this thing clear. We should get it very clear.
Is the federal government bound by court injunctions or court rulings, you know, in their dealings? I mean, we have an attorney general, and you know, which is why the laws are meant to be, you know, enforced, you know, by the government.
But you and I know that in recent time, the military are still arguing that even if the court declares that they have not been, you know, the military, we all know that the military, they work with order. Are you getting it now? Okay. The president and the commander-in-chiefs of the armed forces cannot just be taken with levity hand. The commander-in-chief must actually give order. Okay. Are you getting it now?
And we've not had that.
We have not had that. Okay. Are you getting it now? Until that one is done, we are not yet there.
So we are right to say that the government of Nigeria is yet to comply with the court injunction.
I wouldn't want to say. I wouldn't want to say that.
Okay. Away from that, now somebody that, as a correspondent that has actually, you know, covered defense over time, have you seen, let's say, in terms of technology, is there anything, are there activities, you know, like that to help curb the insecurity in the country? Have you seen something like that?
Well, the NCC, Communication Commission, I think together with this agency, NASENI, you know, there was a time like that they signed a memorandum of understanding that they want to produce some equipment that will help the military. And military itself, they have their own technological arm, you know, where they are working. But as it is now, I can't really say that there is a technological system or the system set aside in technological form to tackle the insecurity. But let's just give it to them. They are trying their best. The military is trying their best. But their best is not enough.
Okay, give us an update on the repentant Boko Haram members. This year we had quite a number of people who have repented. I think the last time we had the GOC in that access, gives an update about more than 8,000, of them that have surrendered to the military. What are
it's not even 8,000, it's about 15,000.
Okay, well, that's the number as at November, so I'm sure that more would have, surrendered. What are we doing and how are we managing, this group of people?
Okay, I will quote the commander Operation Safe Corridor. Recently, we were at the defense headquarters and where the stakeholders meeting were held, it's not everything that they will allow journalists to be privy to. But when they were discussing during they disclosed that over 500 people are being rehabilitated recently in Gombe and their camp recently. So those ones, I mean, if they finish rehabilitating them, probably they will arrange on how to bring them back into the society. So as it is now, the numbers of surrendered bandits, according to the military, is still growing. But I'm very sure that a day is coming that they will call on the press to probably to interact with them and see ourselves how things are being run in that particular. But as it is now, the Operation Safe Corridor is still camping over 500 repentant bandits in Gombe, according to the commander of the Operation Safe Corridor.
So is that rehabilitation supposed to be in batches now, or what? I mean, we have those that have surrendered in thousands, but we are just talking about 500 being rehabilitated. So is that supposed to now be in batches, or what?
Though the commander didn't say it that day in the presence of newsmen, but obviously it will be in batches, The camp cannot take all of them at once. So it should definitely be in batches. So having done that, I think the next thing they will be focusing on is how to bring them back, to reintegrate them into the society. So which has caused a lot of, how do I put it, a lot of worries controversy for Nigerians and other, especially the host communities.
You know, one other thing, people are really curious about is the issue of whether these surrendered Boko Harams actually surrender their arms along with them. A lot of people have really asked that question, and we don't really know so far if they actually surrender their arms along with themselves. Do you have any idea?
Well, I think last time I discussed with my colleague in Maiduguri, we are here in Abuja, and majority of those who surrendered are actually in that axis. So last time I discussed with my colleague, he actually said that all those who surrendered are not carrying arms. Not all of them were carrying arms. Are you getting it now? So among those surrenders, there are very few of them, probably like their commanders. And before you can surrender, because you agree to surrender, automatically you will have agreed to drop your arms. So I want to believe that the military has actually taken custody of their arms. So meanwhile, their subordinates who are not taking arms, who are just normally taken to their family members and others like that.
Women and children.
Women and children. Majority of the children may not be able to carry the guns and other things like that.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Ayuba. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
We hope to bring you right here again for you to, walk us through the whole issues in the defense.
All right. Well, thank you, viewers, for staying with us. With that, we wrap up the Daybreak show for today. My name is Ayuba Ilewe. Thank you. In case you've missed part of the show, you can also connect with us via our social media handles, and also go to our YouTube channel and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. As we speak, it's streaming live, and that we do every morning here on Trust TV. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.
Bye.